Hello, world. You don't know me, and I don't know you, but recently there has been a submission or a call to submission by Couchsurfing claiming that he who comes up with the best video shall get free airfare for the next destination of their choice, up to around $2,000. Now, I'm not terribly interested in making a video upping the quality of my accomplishments or my deeds, but when juxtaposed against the potential of $2,000, well, that's enough to possibly incite me to procure a tailor to. Now, I happen to have been, for the last 3 years now, traveling around the world. As you can imagine, this is quite expensive. It has left me scrunching and scrapping in every possible way I can to save money while doing so. One of the ways that I do this is through Couchsurfing. Another way I do this is by being thrifty, camping, and a whole various other things that we don't need to get into at the moment. Needless to say, I sustain myself generally by writing articles. They don't make me very much, but enough to keep the dream going for us. Now, I feel it necessary to state that although I don't take pictures and I definitely don't take video, I don't really quite believe in plastering my photos against on Facebook and getting information wowzers from other people. I don't travel for other people. I travel for myself. And in the past 3 years I've managed to wiggle my way through 91 countries, which is a little under half by a bit of all the countries in the world. Now, my reasoning for this is because the second half is a lot hard to get to. So to encourage you to like my video and share it along with your friends, family members, arch enemies, and other relative miscreants that you might have in your immediate sphere of influence, I will propagate to you 3 stories that bequeath me of my travels, and hopefully that they'll be enough to entice you to do what you need to do to help me win this thing. Now, the first thing to note is, when you travel, many people get it wrong. They think that you travel to see different places, and although that may involve be true at the very beginning, as time goes on, places tend to blend into one another. They tend to become carbon copies of each other, and it's very hard to differentiate between cities. And the only thing that makes places worth going to then, when the magic of the scenery is gone, are the people. Now, this probably strikes you as a bit odd, because people are notoriously easy to dislike, and rightfully so. I mean, I believe there are 3 classifications of people that I have met upon my travels. The first group are people that you like immediately and immensely. There's no doubt about it, you will be best friends for life. The second group, far more common, are people that you don't immediately dislike, but you believe you can come to like in a coordinates of time. And the third grouping are those individuals that you meet upon immediately meeting. No. You want to push them away with a sharp stick. This last group is subsequently reserved only for those most detestable of people, and the French. Now, which story to go with first? I don't travel. Well, let's just say I didn't start traveling around the world to meet people or to see the sights. No, I started much younger than that. I was at the age of 6, and when people asked me what it is I wanted to do when I grew up, I always thought I would like to be an explorer. Well, to my shame and travesty, there was not much places to explore left, and as time went on, you go to school, you get a job, and my dream of traveling and exploring had been put on the back burner until I decided one day, F it all, I'll just do it. And so I did, and so I have. So the basis for my journey begins with that wanderlust, that undeniable desire to just, what's the word? feel the lust of wonder. People often ask, or I often ask people, what is your favorite sensation in all the world? You get those, oh man, sex. Sex is the best sensation you'll ever have. And then you get the second subset where you say, oh man, it's drugs. Drugs, alcohol, the like. Now that will give you the memories of your dreams. The third one will be like, those two don't know anything. It's music. Music sings to the soul in ways that drugs and sex never could. Coincidentally, this makes up the trinity of the sex, drugs, and rock and roll stereotypes. But for me, I've always believed that the best sensation in the world is wonder. And I've discovered that no matter how many places you go, if you have a sense of wonder, you will always have the time of your life. Now, keeping with the spirit, by far very little to do with couchsurfing, this next story, but has everything to do with my lust of exploration and the reason why I couchsurf. I love to explore places, but more like I like to meet the people. And as I realized that there weren't that many places left on the world to explore or visit, I discovered a handful of places that were. And one that came onto my radar was Papua New Guinea. Now, Papua New Guinea is a small island northeast of Australia? It was northwest. North of Australia to some degree. And large swaths of it have gone currently unexplored. Now, there are many reasons for this. One is Papua New Guinea is an extremely broke and crime-ridden country. The second is they have a huge genetic diversity when it comes to spoken languages and tribal governances. And I think that last I checked, there was roughly around 6,000 different languages, or was it 3,000, spoken on that small island. Most of these have not evolved to the point of writing, and the land in a specific region called the Star Forest has yet to be fully documented, or even mostly documented, or even partly documented. And so I decided, in a moment of hubris and or lack of longevity, that I would like to go there. I decided this many, many, many years ago, and it wasn't until many, many years later that I managed to get there. And upon arriving, I made my way through the capital city, and it is not a place that I would necessarily recommend you to go. It is a place where you're possibly to get abducted. It is a place... Ooh, should I go this way? I think I should go this way. Huh. Hund! Legend! Alright, well, we'll go this way. But it's a place that's not necessarily easily to venture or to do so safely. But I put no care in the wind to war, famine, disease, or difficulty when it comes to my bouts of exploration. And this was going to be the first time that I'd ever made my way to an area that was, for the most part, completely unexplored. Now, one of the things to note is that as most of these tribes don't have language that has evolved into writing, and most of them remain self-governed to a large degree, cannibalism is quite rampant. Maybe not as often as it used to be, but still blatantly done so. So wandering through these forests of the Papua New Guinea alone would not be inducive. So I teamed up with 3 other people that also wanted to travel around. There was an Australian by the name of Steve. There was a Peruvian. And there was a native. I forget how to pronounce his name. It was like Hahuahua. Now, the funny thing about this is that when you read up on documentations of possible people getting abducted that managed to survive, you come across an overarching theme that there might have been a sense of betrayal. And as such, the Peruvian didn't speak any English and we didn't speak any Spanish. But Steve and I had come to a consensus that, well, as we wandered through this vast open land, we would keep our eyes on the native just in case he decided to sell us out to the local indigenous tribes for whatever purpose or another they want. And it's an absolute incredible experience. It's 2 weeks hiking through the Star Mountains from a city called Tabulai all the way to the coastline. And it was a lot easier than I imagined, and a lot more difficult in keeping my orientation. I've done a lot of hiking and extravagance. It's very few natural parks in the United States that I haven't quite been to, or around the world. I've visited a lot of them. But one of the things that struck me as interesting is just the vast array of untouched and unflirted wilderness. You had the smell of exotic fruit. You had the sight of majestic birds of paradise soaring through the air and bouncing on the ground, making their clicketing and their clucketing. And if you are a fan of bird watching, which I don't necessarily know why you would be, there is no other place in the world I would recommend you to go than to observe the birds of paradise in their natural locations of Papua New Guinea. The forest itself, to get through, is quite easy. You don't necessarily need a machete because the forest is extraordinarily old. So there's very little undergrowth, as the trees block out most of the sunlight that is used to propagate life. So, as we walk through those wildernesses, there's many different things that freak you out. Your imagination goes wild with hordes of cannibals around the corner. We ran across a couple of footprints of people not wearing shoes. Now, whether these were cannibalistic tribes proper or just regular indigenous tribes that had no interest in eating people, we weren't aware. However, we were in the danger zone. So I travel not to be safe, not to be in danger per se. I travel to explore, to see new worlds, to boldly go where no one has ever gone before, and to split infinitives, apparently, that no one else has split. Although I can't say I'm the first to split boldly go. Anywho's, my second story involves a small city in the North Rhineland area of Aachen. North Rhine-Westphalia. Oh, sorry, get that thing in. Okay, now this happened when I was couch surfing, and I was staying with a gentleman whom had just decided he wanted to have a bout of excitement in his life, and so he signed up to couch surfing, and lo and behold, he gets me, an individual that has traveled himself far more widely than some, and probably has more people hating him than others. And so we meet, and he says, "Hey, I would like to explore an abandoned place. You game?" And I told him, "Absolutely. I'm totally game. There's very little game that I wouldn't do." And so I went on the internet and immediately found a place to go and explore. It was an abandoned railhouse station, sort of in the west of the city. It was about an hour's walk away, and we waited till nightfall and sort of garbed ourselves up all in black, because if we're going to do it, if you're going to do something, you might as well do it comically and look like you're come straight out of a cartoon. That way it holds amusement for you and anyone that might try to catch you. Got a couple of cartoon intruders trespassing in an old abandoned warehouse. What is this? From the funnies of the local newspaper? Anyways, when we arrived, the place was desolate, archaic, completely tumbling to the ground, yet made of steel, and we managed to jimmy a door open and make our way inside using the light only of our flashlights because, you know, we were brilliant enough not to bring a torch. And as we looked upon, the ground floor was just dilapidated and completely strewn with pipes, metal, and different things of non-friendly, non-aesthetic natures. And as we explored, it was, you could see the adrenaline getting him to just a little bit. And I discovered there was a second floor. Now, the thing about me is I am always surprised that I am not dead yet. I have put myself into positions where I should have been eaten alive, where I should have been stabbed, where I should have been shot, where I should have been killed. Yet it's never actually happened. And it's probably going to happen through some random thing like twist my ankle and fall off a bridge. That's probably how it's going to end up happening. However, when I climbed up to the second story of this very old and dilapidated building, what met me was Well, but there was no real reason to go up there, you understand? There was nothing to observe, there was nothing to see, nothing that would quite strike you as fantastic, but to me there was that sense of adventure of who was the last person that had come up here. I wanted to see the world in its natural environment, the passage of time, see how time creates life and destroys mighty structures that stood before it. And its construction was a lot of parallel beams, metal parallel beams, a plethoric amount of them just running sideways. And on top of these metal beams were put wooden planks. Now, wooden planks are notorious for corrosion, and when they get corroded, they snap. Metal beams, also notorious for rusting, but a rusted metal is still strong enough to be metal to support the weight of me, somebody who's not thinner than I am wider, however, not terribly wide. And so, when my plus one, his name will remain forever a mystery, decided to come up with me, I said, well, be careful. Monkey see, monkey do does not apply. What I do, you should probably use as a rule of thumb not to do. But this is something that he'd wanted to do for the longest of time, and so he came up, and I said, all right, well, let's only step where the floorboards meet the metal, not in between. And so, as we explored this upper area, at one point, he got, ahead of me and was exploring his own little section, when all of a sudden, I looked up, and he wasn't there anymore. Now, this accommodated a huge crashing sound, and I stood dead because he was the one with the flashlight on his phone. Mine had died at this point. And so I stood riveted to the spot in point darkness, just looking up. Now, there was about a 3-meter difference between the floor of the second story and the ground. It was very large because this was a railway station repair area. And I just stood, and I remember just staying riveting at the spot in complete and utter darkness. And the first thing I said was his name. Name. No answer. And I just repeated it over and over and over again for maybe about what seemed like an eternity. Was probably about 30 seconds, which is still quite a long time to imagine that somebody in pure darkness dropped to 3 meters, 15 feet, to the ground of a strewn area of pipes, metal objects, nails, and things. And then after a handful of times, as the seconds turned into infinity, I heard him say, yeah, I'm okay. And it's like, whew. In which case, he then turned on his phone and shined the light back up on me, and I managed to my tongue is not working today. Managed to extradite myself. That's not the right word. Extract myself from the situation, and made my way back down. Now, the worst